And of course, everybody's wondering, I am turboed, but how much does a car get, like miles per gallon wise? What is up? It has been almost, actually a little over 2 years since we last made So You Wanna Buy a 350Z or 370Z video. Now we have, upgraded. We got a little cool mic. Brian's still here wearing the same exact Crocs. Something very crazy. Last time I made this video, there was no new Z coming out and the 370Z was still in production. Now the 370Z is not in production. The Z is basically dead, but there is a new Z which looks like this. From the last time you guys were here watching this series, my car was very different. It was stock, it was gray, and the price point of when I got it was $19,000. Now 2 years later, the car market's crazy. So in today's video, we're going to talk about everything you need to know before buying a Nissan Z. Crap, the keys are inside. Oh gosh. Okay, so it's not that the car's locked, it's that my door handle is bad. Yeah, we're gonna talk about all these bad things that you need to know before buying one. Y'all think I'm kidding? Look, unlock. Not lying. Oh. Thank you, Brittany. Yeah, we're gonna get into the bad things in a little bit, but first let's talk about the specs of the car. So there is 3 specs to a Nissan 370Z. I talked about it briefly, but last video I didn't talk about the 350Z specs as much. Well, guess what? Now I do also have a 350Z. And well, I'm happy to announce that in this video, we're going to also talk about the different trim levels of the Nissan 350Z as well. But first you have a base model. What you need to know about the base model: it has small brakes, you have small wheels, small tires, you don't have sync or ref match if you decide to go with the manual option. You also have an open diff, so you're gonna have that one wheel peel warrior that no one likes. You're gonna be that one guy. You also don't have a wing, which you guys want to see a Z without a wing? Last time I had a wing, this time it's smooth. So if you buy a base, you're not gonna have a wing. It's gonna be just like this. And you obviously also have crappy sound system. Then you have the Sport. Brian, you got the Sport. That's the one I have, Brian. With Sport, you get big brakes. You get this beefy all Brembo brakes, or Akibono, sorry, race wheels. So you get 19-inch wheels, bigger tires. In the rear, you get a whopping 275 meat. We all like big old meat, right? Oh yeah. You do get the Bose sound system with the Sport. You also get the awesome ref match. When you downshift, the car goes wing, and you don't have to it's pretty awesome. You also do have an LSD diff, which that's great. You're gonna be peeling with 2 wheels now instead of 1. In my opinion, I highly recommend the Sport because it's right in the middle of the Nismo, which we're gonna talk about now, and then the base. So obviously Nismo, I don't have the Nismo body kit anymore, but you get an amazing body kit. You also get dampeners on the suspension, so it handles better. You get stiffer springs, you get better shocks, and they say 350 horsepower because the exhaust is a little bit more. So the Nismo is a little bit more beefy, but in reality, those 350 horsepower, when you tune the car, it's all the same. Actually, let me tell you real quick about my car since the last time I made this video. Right now, it has a turbo, it's red, it has a Weaver body kit, it has a good amount of carbon, and it looks pretty dope. So if you haven't already, smash a like and subscribe because we're trying to reach 100K. Do that. 350Z, I want to do a quick rundown. I have everything written here on my notes. I want you guys to know everything as quick as possible. So leave a like. 03 350Z to 05, you have the DE engines. The ones nobody likes, but I personally love how they sound. DE is the best sounding engine. That's a fact. Those come with a whopping 287 horsepower. Okay. Then you have the Rev Up, which actually it's an 06. Rev Up is like the weird middle one, like in between the DE and the HR, which comes from 7 to 08. So the HR, actually, you want to come over here? My hood's closed. Never mind. The HR has dual intakes just like the VHR. Obviously, the VHR pushes a little more horsepower with 332 horsepower, but the HR 350Z comes with a whopping 306 horsepower. So there's different categories for 350Z. You got the base, you got the enthusiast, we got the performance, we got the touring, and in Europe we have the track. We're not in Europe, we're not going to talk about that. Touring sounds weird. Enthusiast, we're not going to talk about that either. We're going to focus on the base and the performance. The base comes with an open diff, cloth seat, no heated seats, and cruise control, no cruise control, and 7-inch wheels. And then you go to the performance, you do have the bigger 18-inch wheels, you do get a little spoiler, and you also get the Brembo big brakes. Now, like I said, performance is the same as the Sport for the 370Z. I highly recommend you do go ahead and get the performance for this car. And you also have the Nismo version, which is very, very similar to this. Different body kit, better suspension and whatnot, and extremely expensive. So we got all the details out of the way. Now, before we get into the problems and what you should look for, do you want to buy a used or a new? Well, obviously you can't buy a new one anymore because they don't produce them anymore. But more like, do you want to buy a used new stock, or do you want to buy a used modified? In my opinion, I bought this car 100% stock. It felt more fulfilling, and I feel weird and icky. That's a horrible term. But I know that sometimes I do things in a certain way where if I were to sell the car, the guy that would buy it would have absolutely no idea how to get around it or where the problem might even come from. So just not knowing kind of just makes me anxious. If something goes wrong, I know why it's wrong. I know it was my fault and I know how to fix it. If it's made by someone else, you're going to struggle with knowing where, why, and how. So in my opinion, I will buy a stock one, but I know a lot of you out there would want to buy something that's already modified and whatnot, which is not a bad idea, but just make sure that talk to the owner, ask him about the mods, write down the mods, and that's the best I could give you. I mean, when the car's modified, it's hard to look at what they did right and what they did wrong. So let's talk about everything bad that happens on a 350Z and a 370Z. So we're gonna cut from 350Z clips and 370Z clips. Anyways, first things first, the door handle does go bad, as you just saw happen to me. It also goes bad, very, very common on a Nissan 350Z. This one is an 09. I got it with a whopping 56,000 miles. Right now it has a whopping 90,000 miles. My Nissan 350Z, that's a Frankenstein car. Just don't pay attention to that, but it is a 2004 350Z. You can see that the weather strip right here, this like inner part of it comes out. And this has happened on the other side and this side as well. So you might want to pay attention to this. Another thing, these cars are getting old. This pillar right here, the roof, and probably the hatch are going to start fading, which is very sad to hear. Thankfully, this one isn't broken. But something that is broken is the little cubby right here. As you can see, it doesn't work very well. I talked about this last video, but obviously, you want to check fender liners. I'll be honest, I have not ran fender liners. I don't know what I was gonna say, but it's been a very long time. You can just click in here, or click. Wow, I've been playing too much. You can just feel in here. You should have a fender liner that obviously covers the front part of the bumper or the rear part into the upper part into back here. This is actually a good example. The reason I didn't put mine back is because this is an aftermarket carbon fiber fender and this is an aftermarket bumper. So if they crash the car and they put, let's say, Duraflex and not OEM parts, the fender liner might not fit properly. So maybe that's why they didn't put the fender liner back. It's a good thing to think about. Obviously, you want to check for oil leaks. These cars are very, very bad with consuming oil, leaking oil, anything oil related. These cars don't like, and especially if the car's modified. Whoa, whoa! What are you trying to do, bro? We're trying to make a video. You're filming me in a weird position. What's happening? Okay, Brian. So you're gonna go buy your new M4. What do you look? What's something that you're gonna look into before buying it?
That it has the spare key.
The spare key? You want to look for a spare key? You know what's crazy? I don't have a spare key for this car. I've never had a spare key. I bought this car used. That's a great point. That's a great point, because if my keys get locked in the car or I lose them, that's it. GG. Thankfully, 5 years me owning this car, I've been very careful. Never lost the keys, but that's great. Look for spare keys. Good point. Your headlights will yellow. That's why mine are aftermarket. If you live in Florida, if you live anywhere in the world, your headlights will yellow, especially 350Z. 370Z as well, because they're plastic. Your dash, just absolutely, look at this. It's a rubbery mess, and when you live in Florida, it just doesn't help it. So dash needs absolutely redone. That's the worst part about the interior. Also the seats. The seats aren't great either. These are aftermarket seats, so I can't show you, but the seats I had before looked like they were from a 1990s car instead of a 2009. It was bad. Mechanically, I've already talked about it before. This is more for the 370Z though, but the slave cylinder is not great. The slave cylinder you will have to change. Both transmissions are very strong. I don't know about the automatic. I've heard automatics are decent. I mean, the 370Z comes with a 7-speed automatic. 350Z I think is a 6-speed or 5-speed. I personally would not go with automatics on this car though. I know no hate, but I feel like it would take away a lot from the sportiness that this car is supposed to give you. Like, I recently drove a GTR and I understand why that car came in just an automatic. I don't understand why you would drive this with an automatic, other than obviously traffic. I understand all those things, but yeah, manual's the way for me, in my opinion. So we talk about trunk space. Okay, this is a good representation. We got random items, a little toolkit. We got some carbon fiber on the rear, pretty dope. We got a meth tank. No, not from Breaking Bad, you absolute animals. We got my little buddy that hasn't been in the front a little bit. We got a compressor in case the car ever loses air. We got a battery pack right here. If you're buying this car, it is not for space. We did review this car and compare it to my friend's Porsche GT4, a $100,000 supercar that's meant for the track. Even that car had more space in this. So the space is not great. So if you're looking to buy this car for the space, it's not it. So I'm not gonna lie, this car isn't really very roomy. I mean, everything's pretty tight. And I know you're saying have bucket seats, but even like without the bucket seats, you can just pretty much see how tight everything is. Like, I mean, transmission is right here next to you, if you're a bigger person, it's gonna be right next to your knee. And there just isn't really a lot of space. There is two little cubbies back there which you can put something. Actually, you know what's crazy? The 350Z in the inside has more space than the 370Z. That's a fact.
That's a fact.
I hear the 350Z just has a lot more little compartments. Like this one where you can store things in that the 370Z does not have. Also, these are other things that I'm gonna mention again. Look for discolored bumpers that don't match. If it doesn't match, it's been repainted. Even literally, this is a great example. So I used to have a twin turbo 300ZX. We painted the car on a Thursday and we painted like the bumpers on a Friday. And even that 24-hour difference, the colors were never the same. It was crazy. But everything must be painted the same day if you want everything to match perfectly. And if you're repainting, something probably happened. So check the Carfax. A lot of people send me links to cars and it's like, oh, that's an 09 with almost 200,000 miles. I wouldn't.
Don't do it.
I wouldn't do that personally. Let's continue talking about mechanical. So these cars are notorious for having a bad gallery gasket. So let's say you already bought the car, you plan on tuning it, you plan on modifying it. Before you do any of that, I highly recommend, especially if you're in the 80,000 mile club up, change your gallery gaskets. So the gallery gaskets are in the very front of the block, I guess you could say. They're right up in here, and whenever you're making loud pops and bangs and your car's just pushing more horsepower than normal, or even if you're stock, they go bad over time because they're made out of this paper weird material and they literally break. And what's crazy is that when we turboed the car, we had to obviously do the gallery gaskets. We actually weren't gonna, but thankfully a lot of you commented and we ended up doing it. There was literally chunks of gasket in my oil pan, which is very scary. So you lose compression and it will go kaboom. Not fun. Yeah, so it leaks oil from the gallery gaskets, and what's crazy is that you can't see if those are leaking or not. So you would have to open it up and see if they're leaking or not, which is crazy. Also, the valve cover gaskets also leak, but those are much easier. I've made a couple of videos on how to do that. Honestly, I did that with no experience and my friend, so. And after I had a little bit more experience, it was like literally like a 1 hour job. It wasn't hard at all. And of course, everybody's wondering, I am turboed, but how much does a car get like miles per gallon wise? So this car is definitely not getting 29.8 miles to the gallon. That would be insane. Especially it being turbo, that would be insane. So the car before the turbo was getting 17.9 miles to the gallon. Right now, I would probably give it 15.5, 16 miles to the gallon. And to fill up with 93 octane, it does cost right around $100, and the gas here costs around $578, $580. Other than that, the VHR, DE, HR, Rev Up, they're very strong engines. I love how they sound. People say they sound like trumpets. Do you like how these sound or no? You don't like them?
No.
Do you like how mine sounds?
Yeah. Yeah, just because it has a turbo now too.
Okay. I didn't know this. This whole time before I even had a turbo.
I
Every time you said, "Whoa, dude, that sounds epic," you were just lying.
was just pretending.
That's great. That is insane, bro. But what else should we see on this channel? If you guys didn't go buy a 350Z or 370Z, what would you buy? Or did you buy a 350Z or 370Z from the last video you saw? Comment below. I'm gonna end it off right here. If I'm forgetting anything though, I'll be sure to include it at the end. I love you guys so much. Thank you to Brian for filming this video. I hope you guys like the high quality. Smash a like I said, freaking subscribe. I love you guys. Peace. I'm actually gonna go pee right now. I'm gonna go pee.